What she is talking about, and actually it was the late fall of 2022, a track phone was found in Robert Lough's room at the Special Commitment Center on McNeil Island. It was sent off, so it's contraband, so it was brought in illegally. How he got it, we are unaware. I would make some assumptions, but again, I want to keep to the facts that I know. Anyway, so got a track phone. It was sent off to one of the SCC's contractor called Northwest Digital Forensics. A guy by the name of Paul McShane ended up doing digital forensics, finding child sexual assault material called CSAM on that phone. And that was taken as evidence. The phone and the thumb drive that contained the images were sent to the Marysville Police Department. And don't start scratching your head and say, why Marysville? Apparently that's where this digital forensic expert person lives. So once it got submitted as evidence and a case number issued there, it sat. And we have done public records requests to find out, asking for the chain of custody. At this point, we don't have that back. I also did a chain of custody public records request to the Washington State Patrol. I spoke with them at the beginning of the week. Captain Clark Jones and Captain Jones in the Washington State Patrol ISB department. He stated they didn't get the case until March of 2026. At that point, the statute of limitations on a CSAM state charge had expired. So even if he would have been found guilty, which you need to know, he's never admitted that this was his phone. It just magically appeared or was planted there, was his defense. But the case hasn't gone forward. It was referred to the feds. You could read in court documents. When I asked who the feds were, that apparently is the FBI. So the FBI, the national FBI, and a CSAM case can, their statute of limitations is a little different. It's 10 years or 10 years from the time the crime is committed. So once the victim realizes the crime was committed. Because sometimes children can be 3, but they don't realize till they're 25 what happened to them when they were 3. So the statute of limitations would start at age 25. Make sense? So at this point, it's unknown, but that's where it's at. Just to follow up with that, Kane County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, even if the charge comes through and he's found guilty, that is not what is legally called an overt act. And that is a legal term used to a crime that's committed once folks are released into a community, not when they're incarcerated or civilly committed. So because he committed this act while in custody at the SCC under civil commitment, that would not count as an overt act, just the way the law goes, unfortunately. Next question.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure you said what your role is at the beginning, but I'm going to...
I'm sorry. I am president of the Save Our Children Enumclaw. I got roped in by the likes of Hare and Deb Van Dam when the less restrictive alternative and the last sexually violent predator was placed here. I served on the Enumclaw School Board for a few years, and after that I served in the legislature. My late husband was a judge in King County, so I do have some knowledge, although this was never anything I've ever worked on before, so, and would prefer actually to never talk about this subject again. I read these documents and we have to have brain bleaches after I've read them.
So, and what was your name?
I'm sorry, my name is Cathy Dahlquist.
Okay, thank you.
Jessica McCoy Storton, back here, is our vice president. Isn't that your role? Secretary. She's on the board with me. There's a lot of good people that helped. Yeah, we've got lots of people here that helped in the last effort to close that place down. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You deemed him as no longer a threat to society?
He wasn't ever deemed not a threat to society. He was deemed that he wouldn't commit a sexually violent act. That's really important because in the state of Washington, we have laws that don't necessarily keep you in prison for life unless you hit 3 strikes, right? So you heard me talk about that 3rd strike. He would have been in prison for life. So the psychologist that they hired, and when I say they, the Special Commitment Center, every year his public defender gets to file a motion to have him released. He can be released to a less restrictive alternative home, just like the last go around when we had Stephen Knapp placed over at the Garden House on 188th over by the Van Dam Dairy. That was different. This fella applied to be unconditionally released, and he won that based on a psychological evaluation by a psychologist that was paid for, that was represented by the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, so who represents the people. So she found him to be violent, but not sexually violent. So once that sexual connotation comes off, we can no longer civilly keep them contained on McNeil Island.
Do we know her name?
Do we know her name? Dr. Davis. She's in California. Yeah. Explains things, right?
Yeah.
Jen.
Do you know over his record for the people that may have not have seen or heard all of it due to their limited internet access?
Yes, did you hear the question? She wanted to know if I could go over his record. And it's fairly lengthy, so I can just tell you what I remember. This is a man who started committing crimes when he was a youth against his relatives, his sister, as a teenager. He married, he continued to assault women, and was charged, had several charges before meeting up with a 21-year-old gal in a tavern, and they got to chatting and we're going to go to another bar. They got in the car to go to another bar. He drove her off on the highway, took her out, sexually assaulted her, and stabbed her in her private area 21 times. He left her for dead on the side of the road. She, I believe, is still in witness protection. She was surgically repaired, but damaged for life. So that's what he was convicted for. That was the assault and rape charge he was convicted for. While in prison, he amassed many, many violations, and I'm going to say charges. It's different when you're incarcerated than when you're living in the community. And then when he got released, he did things like hiring gang members, like I said before, to kill and maim correction officers at the prison. Once he was released to the SEC, he had over 70 violations until he finally tried to murder one of the other residents, and that was the 2010 conviction. Again, it was an assault 2 charge, was pled down to assault 3, meaning it didn't qualify for the 3 strikes you're out. So that is a shortened version without going into more graphic detail. Yes, ma'am?
Is the Enumclaw district willing to work with transportation to get students closer to their driveways than they are now?
Yes. spoke with Bill about that earlier, and he can speak to that if he'd like. But yes, they're willing to work with the Lake Walker community, and we'll sit down and talk to you, and let's get you guys together to figure out what's the safest option for kids in that neighborhood. 100% they'll do that for you. Yes.
This is pretty basic, but what was the sentence this guy was given originally?
He was given 30 years. And as you know, initially he was given 30 years. He has served well over 40 between prison and the civil commitment. And a lot of the reason why is because of the violations he had while imprisoned or in civil commitment. Time continued to be added on. So as you know, most of the time, if you go in and you have good behavior, you hear about people getting out and, oh, you get 30 years, you're really out, released in 15. Not him. He was held there forever. He's that violent.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so update regarding the Zoom. One of the gentlemen over here spoke to 5 different operators, and basically it's not happening. Okay.
What
So,
did she say?
it's not happening. 5 different operators, the King County location regarding this agreed to Zoom that they said they would do, it's not happening.
Convenient.
So the Zoom is not happening for those who just heard. So who got that information?
I did.
Okay.
So what they're saying right now is that they're having technical issues, and there is no moving forward with this. So I've talked to the 5 different operators, and they've all said the same thing. They don't know. They're just going to be stopping at this point. So they had nothing else to go with.
Carson, can you help us?
All I've got so far is it's not working and they're working, and I got a name of someone who's gonna update me, yes or no. So we're not missing anything.
Okay, did you just hear what this
No, I
gentleman?
missed it.
Okay, he spoke to 5 different operators, and they all said there was technical difficulties and it wasn't going to be happening.
Okay.
That was-
Trying to get confirmation.
Okay, we're gonna wait till we get confirmation from King County, but thank you for that.
Their Facebook page, as of 7 minutes ago, said technical difficulties, they're working on trying to get it fixed. So.
Okay, let's just be a little more, yeah, let's wait. Bill, in the back.
Yeah, Kathy, what efforts are being made to retain this individual? Because I got grandkids that live up there, and there should be somebody to monitor a person like this, what you described, daily.
Can you repeat the question?
So, Mr. Wheeler asked, what are we doing to contain this individual in this location? Is that your question, Bill?
Yes, someone's.
24 hours a day.
So, right, 24 hours a day. Obviously, that's what we want. We've got kids up there and all that. So the answer is, as far as I know, since he's unconditionally released, it's not the duty of the state to keep him contained any longer. But here's the deal. Ours, as a community, our hands aren't tied. We can do what we can do within legal limits. So hence why we're gonna do an awareness campaign. No one's gonna leave Lake Walker neighborhood and not know this guy's face. Everyone on 164 and 169 coming in and out of Enumclaw are going to recognize him. And at this point, you know, there's really nothing other than putting pressure on Rhonda, pen pal Rhonda, to get her to have him to move out. But he will go somewhere. I've asked, he is a registered Canadian with the Cree Nation, so I wasn't sure if maybe we could go take him over the border. But I've asked, we'll see. That didn't go far in Kim Schreier's office, by the way. Yes, ma'am. Let me go here first, and I'll get to you, Dave.
Has he gone through any kind of rehabilitation at all?
That's a good question. So has he gone through any type of rehabilitation? He refused all sex offender treatment that is offered at the both in prison and at the Special Commitment Center. He refused all treatment. He did say he went to substance abuse treatment meetings. So, Dave?
Yes, what do we know about the pen pal?
We know she works at, she drives a bus for Metro Transit in Bellevue. I don't know her bus number because I thought maybe people would want to write it with a sign or a shirt that might look like this. But that's totally up to you. Yes?
How are we getting notified if something does happen?
I don't know. That's a good question.
And how do we know that something hasn't happened since the night?
Since
The night when he came out. How are we getting notified if something does come about with him?
it would be the community reporting him. So when I said, you know, have your cameras on, I know the Lake Walker area has very unreliable internet Wi-Fi service. So if you have game cams, if you have whatever, and you know that's kind of a pain because you're downloading every night and looking at film. And calling 911. You've got to have Wi-Fi to do that, right?
Well, I was going to say, most of the people out on Lake Walker have acreage, many
Mhm.
acres. They've got the entire creek and the lake that are there. They've got kids running around on their motorcycles all day. I run a summer camp on Lake Walker that I'm currently trying to move. So how are we as a community being notified if he does something or if he isn't home one day?
Well, he is free, his conditions, he is free to go to Safeway. He is free to run around this community, to go to the library, to go to the Rainier to eat lunch. He can do and go anywhere he wants. Unlike Stephen Knapp, that was in the LRA, because he was unconditionally released. And I will post something on the page of people we can write to complain about that. It's not gonna change what's happened. Yes, sir.
Is there any way to get that unconditional release with conditions?
He has to have the civilly committed due to sexual violence label placed back on him. Hence why the federal CSAM charge, I mean, that's at this point, I don't want to say that's to give us hope. I don't even know if that would stick. And because the psychologist that already evaluated him already knew what he had done with that. So she gave an evaluation based on that information, and would someone change that? I don't know. Jen?
Does unconditional mean he doesn't even have a GPS tracker?
Correct. He has no ankle monitor, so we don't know where he's at. Yes.
In terms of Rhonda, we did have a neighbor who got in contact with one of her half-sisters. Her sister was completely unaware that she was doing this. Apparently Rhonda is highly intelligent, full ride to UW. She does have a son who is living with her, and he has Asperger's, so we're concerned about his safety as well. We're concerned about Rhonda's safety, obviously concerned about our kids' safety. I was frustrated with the flyer telling me that my safety tips are to worry about my 3-year-old and my 1-year-old memorizing my number. My daughter saw his face and I told her, if you see him, let me know. And she said, is he a bad man? And I said, yes. And she asked me if she had to be scared, which is not a great feeling as a mom, telling my 3-year-old she has to be scared to go around the neighborhood. My husband's family's been there since the 1960s. We've had like drug addicts in and out, but we've never had something like this. The fact that I moved there to be safe, to get my kids out of the city, and now here we are, and they're bringing him into the neighborhood, no conditions, telling me to document my kids' dental records, like what?
Well, let's be clear. He's in the neighborhood because Rhonda allowed him to move in. Okay, so if we can get to Rhonda, I think that's the best path forward, personally. And if she's intelligent, she would have never taken him in. But
She has bad taste in men, is what her sister said.
apparently,
Not like it.
yes, ma'am.
Are we aware of when the weekly check-ins with DOC is? Because last week, they were there on Thursday afternoon around 2 o'clock. They were not there at all today.
I spoke with Officer Snidesman, who is Department of Corrections, his community corrections officer last week, and that was, I think, on Friday. And he said he would be checking in with him weekly. He did not tell me what day he would be checking him in on
Is it
him.
safe to assume that this weekly check-in has not happened compared to Thursday, if we were going weekly?
I wouldn't assume anything, but I'm happy to give all the numbers I have out. You all can call. The more calls, the better, in my opinion. It doesn't need to just be me. Yeah.
Hi, how do they decide where they'll be placed, and is this Rhonda irrelevant?
How do they decide where they'll be placed? He wasn't placed. She invited him in. She's been his prison pen pal, love interest since 2006.
As far as the evaluation goes, is there any way to contest that evaluation based on potential like misdiagnosis? I mean, he does have a DSM that does not fit the criteria of a safe individual in society.
Yeah,
Yeah, it looks like we're trying to connect now.